tears over Jerusalem. But as they came closer to Jerusalem and Jesus saw the city ahead, he began to cry, I wish that even today you would find the way of peace. But now as it is too late, and peace is hidden from you. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you. They will crush you to the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you have rejected the opportunity God offered you. Luke 19:41 to 44. The above prophecy points to the destruction of the temple and Jerusalem by the Romans, which took place in AD 70. But this was much before, because Jesus was now walking towards Jerusalem, and that was the time called the Passion Week, which would end up in his crucifixion. So Jerusalem was later overrun in AD 70 and the temple was destroyed. There are a few things worth noting here. One, Jesus looked at Jerusalem and he wept over it. Number two, Jesus wished the Jews would look at the way of peace. But as it were, the way of peace had been hidden from her and therefore would not find peace, even as she kept looking for peace in vain. What does this mean? In my opinion, it means that Jesus wished the revelation of himself, the Prince of Peace, would come to the hearts of the Jews. But that revelation never came. And Jesus wished the Jews were able to discern the hour of God's visitation. But they didn't discern. Number three, because of the people's failure to discern God's visitation, Jesus predicted the fall of both Jerusalem, the city, and the temple. With full knowledge that God never gets late and in his sovereignty, he does things in his own time, I sometimes feel like Israel should have just taken the whole land that was promised by God to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, yes, the patriarchs, even Moses and Joshua. In 1945, when it was proclaimed the city, maybe, a nation, it was recognized by the United Nations as a nation. Or probably in 1967, during the Yom Kippur War, or 1973, because it had really conquered most of the land, and now it's after concessions and agreements and all the kinds of negotiations that were done that it has ceded most of the land. I wish it just would have taken that land, and other negotiations would come when it is in full control. I'm saying this in retrospect, in hindsight, when I look and see that now it's at war again, and it has been at war. And because the land was promised by the Lord, Israel has to choose whether it wants to follow the way of concessions and negotiations and accords, or it wants to follow the word of the Lord. What will happen to the Palestinians? God knows. What ought to happen to Israel? It needs to just occupy the land according to the word of the Lord. And you just do God's will, and other things follow after you have done God's will. But you cannot sit there saying, okay, what will happen here and there? I think you just obey, and then God will put other things in place. So what about us? Have we heard the voice of God? And there are many things we are considering. We are considering what will happen to my children if I join the ministry. What will happen to my accounts if I did this? what will happen to me if I become a missionary here, or whatever else. If the Lord has spoken to you, just go ahead and do it. Let the Lord sort the details. I believe that is the way the Lord works. And with that, I want to say shalom. The Lord bless us. Amen.